Hello, good afternoon. Ryan and Chad here again. And we wanted to make a follow-up video to our previous video talking about why we left Sure Foundation Baptist Church. And first off, I want to say thank you to all the people who have reached out with words of encouragement. I know there's a lot of you that have had very similar experiences, and it's really helpful hearing those and discussing those with you. And also to the people that did reach out and want to make diligent inquisition into our claims. Again, we wouldn't be making these claims if they weren't true. And the fact is, if you decide to look into it, if you look at the fact that there are two witnesses here, and you decide to make diligent inquisition and you want to examine those bank statements, the fact is you'll know that everything we're saying is completely true. Now, despite that, there's still people that are saying that we're railing, saying that everything that we're saying is not true. So we wanted to make a video to address that. And one of the big claims that was made was that there was no illegality, there was no slush fund, and all of these statements are made by people prior to even seeing the bank account. Now, when people do see the bank account, they quickly change their tune and say, well, no, we still just support Pastor Thompson. But the thing is, I was in the new IFB long enough, and I think Chad was as well, to know that, there's certain things that we need to do to, stay above board. Paying your taxes is one of them. And I believe that the qualifications of a bishop are that you should be blameless. You should not be covetous, but blameless is certainly one of them. And if you are evading taxes, you are not blameless. So Chuck, why don't you, just so that you guys aren't taking our word on it, that this is an important thing that's been preached on in the new IFB by multiple people, multiple pastors. Why don't you go ahead and play some of those clips for us real quick, Chad?
Okay, so let's see here. Here, can you see it?
Not yet.
Oh, I gotta hit share. So. Okay, so you should be able to see it now. You see it on there?
Yes, I can see it on there.
All right, perfect. Okay. So here is a clip from Pastor Anderson. And the marker's off, dang it.
This isn't.
Hold on, my mistake.
Ports or exports or things like that. But he says, we shouldn't necessarily have to pay this. But he says, notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, let's just pay it. Okay. And the Bible consistently teaches that we should just pay the taxes. Now,
Let's jump right in the next one. Timestamp is off again.
to pay taxes. It's illegal not to pay taxes. But here, these social media platforms, they don't like Bible believing preaching. And so you can see how they want to use something like taxes to nail you. Folks, if they're trying to nail Jesus on taxes, don't you think that they would try to nail preachers in 2020 on taxes? And this is why, I've made a point to be just straight down the line with taxes, in my personal taxes. And I did get audited many years ago.
You want me to keep going on that one? Or?
No, that's fine. I mean, the point there is that obviously Pastor Anderson believes that paying taxes is important because, if the IRS is going to come after people, they're going to come after preachers. We should pay our taxes. He's saying, hey, look, paying taxes is important. Even Jesus, even if he disagreed with it, he still paid taxes the way he was supposed to, because that's what you're supposed to do. And, it's illegal not to pay your taxes. I think Pastor Thompson also preached on taxes. Let's see what he said.
This book. And yeah, we're supposed to obey the government. Yeah, we're supposed to pay taxes. But, what about when they make us pay taxes and those taxes go to Planned Parenthood? Can you do anything about that? Are you able to stop people from taking money out of your paycheck when you earn a paycheck? No, so you can't stop it. We actually live in a system where it's like back in these days, Joseph and Mary went and paid their taxes in the town that they were supposed to pay taxes in. But now it just comes right out your paycheck before you even touch it, doesn't it? So what can you do to stop that?
Well, there is something you can do to stop that. And that is exactly what Pastor Thompson did. And we'll expound more on that in a second. But I think Pastor Jimenez also said something on taxes, right? Do you have that?
Let's see, right here.
I think it's the other one.
The other one's Ken Holmes.
Okay. Yeah. That there then.
Taxes, but lest we offend them, let's just pay the taxes. I just don't want to offend them. I don't want them to. I don't want to do something that they're going to think like, whoa, Jesus doesn't pay, and that's going to cause them to stumble and not get saved.
So there he's there saying, oh, I think I might have went a little bit. Let me back that up a little bit.
You shouldn't have to pay these taxes.
No, that was the whole thing. So there he is saying that. There was another one too. You want me to show that one or you want to hold on?
Yeah. Pull up the Kent Hovind one.
Okay, let's see.
This is why I don't think we should pay taxes. Well, look at verse 27, because notice what Jesus does. Notwithstanding. Here's what he said. Here's what Jesus said. My point is this. The children should not have to pay taxes. If you're paying taxes, you're not free. Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, go down to the sea, cast an hook, take up the fish that first cometh up, and when thou hast opened his mouth, thou shalt find the piece of money, that take and give it unto them for me and thee. So here's the question. Did Jesus pay taxes? Yes, he did. Did Jesus think it was right for him to have to pay taxes? No, he didn't. So why did he do it? Because it wasn't that big of a deal to him. You know, taxes is not my issue. You understand that? The love of money is the root of all evil. If you say like, oh, we need to stand up because I don't want to pay my tax. You know what? Your money perished with you. I'd much rather just let them have their stupid monopoly money and go preach the gospel and get people saved and disciple people. You know what Jesus was about? He was about the gospel. He was about the Great Commission. He, in theory, understood we shouldn't have to pay these taxes. You're going to pay him, Jesus? Yeah. It's not. I'm not going to die on that hill. So I'm sorry, Ken Hovind, you're wrong. It's stupid to die on that hill and go spend 10 years of your life in prison. Just give them the stupid money and preach the gospel. That's what Jesus would have done. Not only is that what Jesus would have done, that's what Jesus did.
So being Christ-like is, paying your taxes, making sure that you're doing everything above board, even if you don't agree with paying taxes, even if you think taxation is theft. Jesus paid his taxes, and we're talking about taxes and people say, oh, you guys are making this all about money. No, we're not making this about money. We're making this about integrity. We're making this about the fact that people are giving to a tax-exempt organization. They're giving to get the gospel out. And that's not what their money was used for. So, we talked a little bit about, and this was one of the things that people were saying was, oh, there was no slush fund. There was no slush fund. There was no slush fund. And, it's funny because Pastor Jimenez did, he preached a sermon and Chad's got it pulled up here. He preached a sermon in response to the Leslie Romero interview, where he talks about how Donnie operated the church finances. And let's see what he says. Go ahead and hit play, Chad.
Wanted to steal the money from Donnie. That is a huge red flag. Let me explain something to you. No legit pastor or pastor's wife would ever refer to the church's money sitting in the church's account as their money. In fact, we've had people that made donations to the church, like they sold something or made a bunch of money or whatever, and they made a donation to the church, and they're like, oh, I bet that really helped you. Like somebody said, I bet that really helped you. And my wife's like, no. Yeah, well, we gave all this money to the church. They're like, yeah, to the church, not to us. We're employees of the church. We get paid from the church. We have our own account where we pay our own bills from. Like the church account and the church money is not our money. And for a pastor's wife to be like, oh, the church money, they were trying to steal that from Donnie. That wasn't Donnie's money. Even if he was the pastor, that wasn't Donnie's money. And by the way, that just shows you the wrong mentality, because you know how Donnie Romero was using the church accounts? Like his personal account. Like his personal piggy bank. like this sludge fund for him to just go gamble with and do whatever he wanted with. And apparently she has the same mentality because she says they were trying to steal Donnie's money. That wasn't Donnie's money. That was
Hold on, let me
the
let it go
church's
for a
money.
minute, a second.
And then they gave it to Pastor Shelley. It's the church's money. He became. And it's
So he was using, Donnie set up a slush fund. He was using the church bank account for his own personal spending. Pastor Jimenez talks about no legitimate pastor doing that sort of thing, believing that the money in the church bank account is theirs, that Pastor Jimenez, he, has his own separate bank account. He gets paid by the church and he goes and pays all of his bills out of, his bank account, right? The money in the church bank account is not his. It's not his to do with what he wants. It's not his to create some sort of slush fund. Now, unfortunately, that's not what happened with Sure Foundation Baptist Church. So we're not going to go through everything, but, I think at this point, because people are continuing to call us railers and people are continuing to say that what we're saying is not true, even though there's 2 witnesses. And some people, again, have made diligent inquisition. And, I think that's really great. Other people, they just want to continue the rails without doing that. So we're going to show you what we're talking about. We're going to show you a little bit of the evidence. We're not going to go into it again. If you're a pastor that supports the ministry, and if you're a member of Sure Foundation Baptist Church or anyone who donated, we will send you all the bank statements. But we're going to show you a little bit of the redacted statements, just to highlight of some of the transactions that we're talking about, to show you that this was used as a personal slush fund. So we have here a bank statement from November 30th, 2020. We've redacted the personal information and the address and the account number. But we'll show January 1st. So I discussed in my previous video that I had talked to Pastor Thompson and said, hey, the amount that you're spending, the church is bleeding money. And, you are not going to be able to meet your obligations. Now, if you look here at the activity summary from January of 2020, you can see here the amount that comes in. That presumably, I don't know, there was a time where the tithes and offerings totals were taken off the bulletin, and then they were put back on, apparently, I don't know. But I don't know if that was on there at that time. But those of you who have, been around long enough, you kind of have an idea of what was going in. So January 2020, $19,184 came in. The total withdrawals and debits was $29,286. Now, I will say this, if you look at, and we'll go over that briefly, but the transfers, there were transfers to the church savings account, and they totaled about $6,000. So roughly, if you take that out of it, you have total withdrawals coming out to about $23,000, which means that we still had $4,000 more going out than coming in. And then you might say, okay, well, that happens. Sometimes people give less, sometimes people give more, and it all just averages out. Well, the problem that you run into is when there's more money going out for a specific reason than there is coming in. If you're budgeting for your family and you're saying, hey, we have $4,000 a month that's going out, that's not coming in, you're not being a very good steward of your personal resources. And the pastor, as the steward of God's resources, he has an obligation to be a good steward of that too. So $4,000 a month going out, that wasn't coming in, even here in November, you can see there was more going out than was coming in. And again, it's not just that the bottom line was off. Let's just take a look at some of the transactions and prove that this was a personal slush fund. So I don't know, Chad, you want to give a commentary on this?
Sure. Well, if you look at it, you can see the total on this side, of course, how much is spent. But if you look at this, you see many different, most of this is, well, all of these highlighted ones are pretty much food. And they're not something, Starbucks, $13. You can't say, well, that was for the church event because it's $13. That doesn't cover for a church event. You might be able to argue that this one was for a church event, $500. But if you look at this, you see Starbucks. Okay, this is on the 11-2. Pay attention to the date. Starbucks, Jack in the Box, Starbucks, Dutch Bros, Bovan Fresh, which is a food thing. Taste of China. We're still on 11-2. Dutch Bros, Round Table, which could be a church event. Cafe, so coffee. Then you go down here, coffee. Chinese buffet. We're still on 11-2. Chinese buffet. You go down here. What's this? 11-2, Quick Stop Smoke Shop. Well, I happened to Google Quick Stop Smoke Shop, and that is this place right here. Now, why is the church spending, what was it, $67? Where is it? Why is the church spending $67 and $10 at this place? Let's look at what they sell there. Local hand pipes, water pipes, smoking accessories, vaporizers, tobacco, e-cigarettes, and hookah. Go inside the store, and you can see this is not a store that I would appreciate my pastor spending my tithe money on. I understand the money belongs to the Lord, but I don't think the Lord would have us shopping here as well. You're supposed to avoid all appearance of evil. To me, this is very concerning, and this isn't the only time that place or other places like it have showed up on the bank statements. Ryan can attest to that. And anyone that has been smart enough, that has been a part of that church, smart enough to ask for the bank statements, can see that it's not the first time and it's not the last time, of course. But this kind of a store, I was not happy when I found out my tithing was going to something like this. Quick Stop Smoke Shop. And so, let's go back to the bank statements. So still, that was all on 11-2.
Now,
and then, go ahead.
I'll say this. I did discuss that with Pastor Thompson. And, he told me that there were, that was used for groceries, that it was a convenience store that was close to his home. It was on his way home. And that there were only, that was the only place to stop. Now, the problem with that, and if you guys want to Google Maps that, you can. If you go and look at the road that is on, if you look at 4th Plain Road, heading from the freeway over there by the Fred Meyer and heading towards East Vancouver. Oh yeah, great. Let's pull up the map. Quick Stop Smoke Shop. Okay. There is, along the way, there is 7-Elevens. Scroll over to the east, Chad. So that's at North Stapleton. There's Dutch Bros, grocery outlet. Keep scrolling. Oh, it looks like there's House of Smoke. Keep going. Oh, I think you're going the wrong way.
Am I going?
Yep, you're going the wrong way.
Oh, here's a Buy Mart.
Okay, yeah, so there's Buy Mart. There's a Chevron right there in the corner. There's a Walmart on that road. There's a Shell. There's a whole bunch of gas stations. And for those of you in Vancouver who have driven down that road, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That place is littered with department or with gas stations. It's littered with with just different places that you can stop and get groceries if you really wanted to. You can stop
by bus. You can get on a bus and get there.
Oh, you can get on a bus.
4 minutes if you drive.
If you drive. There's a Walmart, which is actually the way I know this because my parents live not too far from Pastor Thompson's house. So if you're coming along the freeway, you're coming home, you're driving, there's a whole bunch of gas stations. Look, there's a 7-Eleven right there, right next to Muchas Gracias, right next to Burgerville, right next to McDonald's. For those of you who've seen the bank statements, those names are going to sound familiar to you. So I asked, what are you spending $67 at a long shop for? And he said, groceries. And I said, well, what sort of groceries are you getting there? He said, energy drinks and chips. They have stuff there that, they don't have at the other stores, at the Walmart, at the Chevron, at the 7-Eleven. They have stuff there that they don't have at the other places. Well, here's the thing. Go back to the bank statements, Chad.
Oh, that's a different.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go to the other one. This is from a church bank account. Now, look, I'm not going to say, okay, well, he was going there. This is a church bank account. This is supposed to be used if we're doing things legally. This is a tax exempt account. This is where your taxes are going. This is where your tithes are going. Everything in here is supposed to be a business expense. And this is being spent on the church bank account, which means there needs to be a receipt for it. So what I'd like to see is a receipt for $67 in groceries at a bong shop. I don't think that's too much to ask. Aside from that, when we look at the totality of the spending, you just keep going down, Chad. Give us your commentary again.
Well, okay, so, another day goes by, Smart Food, 11.4, we're going to Wendy's, Panda, Soy Grill, Dutch Bros, Soy Grill, Arby's, Dutch Bros. I mean, I got 9 people in my house. I can imagine that much food coming in. Taco Bell, Coca-Cola City, what's this? Black Angus, $165.91. Ryan, what do you know about that?
Don't muzzle the Black Angus.
That's right. There was a comment recently from one of the Thompson children that said, "Don't muzzle a Black Angus." And Comcast Communications. There's a few of those. I don't know what that. I don't know. Panda Express, Carl's Jr. Hawaiian style grill. We got groceries, Carl's Jr., Soy Grill, Dutch Bros, Jack in the Box, Taste of China, DoorDash Sherry's. Okay, that's Carl's Jr., Dutch Bros, Something Grill, Arby's, Chick-fil-A. I mean, you get the point. It just goes on another Comcast. DoorDash Sherry's, Dutch Bros, Jack in the Box, Black Rock, and I'm assuming that's a place to eat. Hazel's Deli. I mean, look at just on this one day. And this is a small day. Some of these days are a lot longer. Hazel Deli, Black Angus, and DoorDash.
I think the Hazeldale was actually bowling. That's who did Hazeldale. Yeah.
Dutch Bros. You got Dutch Bros, Black Rock, Hawaiian style, Pantry, Taste of China, Carl's Jr. I mean, to me, it looks just.
Go back up for a second, because there's something I want to point out here. There's a lot of DoorDash on here. If you go through the bank statements, a lot of DoorDash that was being DoorDashed to his house for his personal food expenses. So much so that they got a subscription to DoorDash Door Pass, again, on the church bank account. So you're, ordering, oh yeah, look, you can see all of the transactions from November 2020. Just
20
so many of them.
20 results found in DoorDash.
20 results. So you're DoorDashing so much from the church bank account.
Oh, my mistake. That could be 10 because it comes up twice. DoorDash.
Okay, still 10 days. That's a third of the month that you're DoorDashing to your house out of the church bank account. So much so that you're paying for a subscription service to DoorDash from the church bank account. Now, we can go down and look at the rest of this, but I want to just highlight something that one of the people who, someone who was a person who donated to Sure Foundation Baptist Church that asked for the bank statements and went over it. They did some calculations and they said this. They said there were purchases at restaurants, fast food, 15 days that month. They just randomly took a month, November 2019. The average was $180.32 a day, 15 days a month, fast food and restaurants, $180 a day, eating out with the church's money. I feel like donating to Kate Brown's reelection campaign would have given me better bang for the buck, or better bang for my buck. That's what this church member was saying. Hey, you know what? Now you can say, oh, well, the pastor has the authority to spend the money how he wants. No, he's a steward of God's resources. In fact, in Washington State, You're a steward of the donations that are given to a nonprofit, and you have a fiduciary duty not to commit wasteful spending. If this isn't wasteful spending, I don't know what is. Jack in the Box, Taste of China, DoorDash, Carl's Jr., Dutch Bros, Due's Grill. $180 a day on food. That's what your tithe money's going to. Now, you might say, okay, I'm okay with that. You might say, well, you know, the pastor's entitled to that. Here's the problem. These are personal expenses. These are things that he is spending money on for his personal consumption out of a tax-shielded, tax-exempt bank account. These are not business expenses. This is just like Pastor Jimenez said, this is a personal slush fund that he's using as his own bank account. If you're going to spend $180 a day on food, you spend $180 on fast food and restaurants, spend it out of your own money. You can keep scrolling now.
Well, another thing too, he said in a sermon a little bit ago, he said, it's none of your business what I make, but if you want, come ask me and I'll show you my pay stub. None of this will show up on your pay stub.
None of it.
So if I look at the pay stub, I say, oh, he's paying himself, you know, whatever. Okay, that's okay. I can live with whatever amounts on that pay stub. But what about if you add all this up? See, none of this is taxed. None of this is going on the pay stub. This is all basically he's expending this in the church account, but it's personal gain. And so therefore it needs to be recorded under a 1099 as personal gain, which would then be paid tax on. But it's not.
So what, I mean, some of these are larger purchases, the Black Angus, the 150, the 218. But, you know, some people might say, well, you know, it's just coffee here and there. Maybe it adds up to $180 a day, but that's not really that much. What other personal expenses do we have paid out of here, Chad?
Just to clear this up, this one to me, anytime my name shows up in these statements, these are reimbursements, and that would be a big one because it took a while to get, but I have a receipt that shows that every single thing that was paid to me has a tangible object that the church owns still. Okay. Or if I paid for, like, I don't know, an event, some kind of food or something, but it was all church event. So just so you know, anyone that sees my name in there, that all goes to, and I can prove it by showing you the receipts that these are all reimbursed. Anytime you see my name, so reimbursement for things that I bought, and I cover that in my video response to Pastor Aaron Thompson. So what else do we see here? There's this one. I was going to ask you about this one, Brother Ryan. Now I know this one right here is the rent in Spokane.
That's the rent in Spokane.
This is the rent in Vancouver. What's this one?
That would be the personal house rent for Pastor Aaron Thompson, being paid out of the church bank account. Now, again, you can say, well, a pastor's entitled to pay his rent. Here's the problem. If you had an extra $1,400 a month on top of all the food spending, if you had an extra $1,400 a month, that comes out to a total of almost $17,000, $16,800. It's not being accounted for in taxes. That's money that's going to the pastor, that's not being taxed and being written off as a business expense. To do that legally, you can do that. You can have a housing allowance as a pastor. And I discussed this with him 3 months prior to this. I said, look, if you're going to pay your personal expenses out of a church bank account, you need to cut yourself a check and you need to pay it out of your personal account, because what you've done is you've created a slush fund. A tax deferred slush fund. It's illegal. And anyone who has any business background knows exactly what he's done. It's called piercing the corporate veil. You're not following generally accepted accounting principles. You're not keeping long arm distance between your transactions. You're spending well over $4,000 a month, the deficit we had. I mean, if you go and do all the math, and I would encourage those of you who, you know, again, are members, tithers, supported the church, pastors, go and look at the bank statements and add up the totals. And the majority of the spending that comes out of these church bank accounts is not on church expenses. It's not. It's personal expenses. It's, $30 here to Taco Bell, $30 here to McDonald's, $165 to Black Angus. And it's kind of ironic the amount of fast food that we've seen in here. Why don't you go ahead and play that other clip, Chad?
Okay, so let's see here. We will go to. Is it this one? Let me see. Hang on, sorry. No.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the issue here. I mean, there's two issues. There's a spiritual issue here, and there's an illegality issue here. There's an illegality issue here because, it's wrong. It's illegal. It's tax evasion. For those of you who don't know, setting up a tax deferred slush fund is called tax evasion. Not reporting income to the IRS. It's called tax evasion.
Well, so and then here, so that's the corporate issue. That's the worldly issue. The spiritual issue too is that right here, we see that there's thousands of dollars going to Pastor Thompson personally. And then Pastor Thompson gets up and tells the congregation this.
And that's fine. And, for the first few years that I worked for the church, I worked a full-time job and did not collect a paycheck.
Okay, so I did not collect a paycheck. That is true. There was not a paycheck in the form of payroll. But when you look at the bank statements and you see that all this is going to personal, that is the same exact thing as collecting a paycheck, except for you're doing it tax-free.
Let that sink in for a second. He's telling the congregation he's not getting paid. Now, for those of you who have been at Vancouver, I'm willing to bet that a lot of you have probably shut down at this point. You're not even listening to me because you're just, believing that I'm a railer, even though the evidence is right in front of your face. Those of you who have been at Vancouver know that he has a pattern of saying, I don't get paid. I don't get paid. I don't get paid. If you guys go and spend $30 at McDonald's, if you guys go and spend $180 a day on food, where's that coming from? That's coming from your paycheck, right? Again, you can say, well, a pastor's entitled to do that. A pastor's entitled to do that. The issue here is lying about it and shielding it from the government while saying, hey, you have to pay your taxes. So there's the spiritual issue and there's the legal issue. The spiritual issue is he's telling people, I did this service. I was a volunteer. I did this service for free. I didn't take a paycheck because I wanted the church to grow. I wanted the church to be set up. Well, we already know that the church was bleeding money. So if you're going to lie about money, God's money, you're going to lie and say, oh yeah, you're going to do all of that for man's glory. What does the Bible have to say about that, Chad? I think Pastor Thompson preached on that too.
He actually tells us that, but here's the thing about it. There's a certain nobility to a person that gives up his time willingly, week after week, and for years, gives up willingly his time as a volunteer and does not collect a paycheck. There's a very big noble aspect to that, where people look at that man and say, what a great guy that he would give his time to feed the flock and take care of us without even getting a reimbursement. And that's the same problem that Ananias and Sapphira ran into. And Pastor Thompson actually explains it for us right here. Oh, I got to start at minute one. Sorry.
Now you see they're holding back some of the price. So what's going on is, obviously all these people are selling everything that they have and they're distributing amongst themselves, helping each other out. But these people, Ananias and Sapphira, kept back the price. They said they sold it for a certain amount, but they sold it for more than what they said. And then they brought the price and said that it was, this is what we got for it. So they're pretending to have sold it for less. And this they did, I think that they obviously lied, and they did this for their own glory. They're trying to seek some sort of man glory for what they did. Because why would they just stay with the real price list? I mean, they're obviously, their motives are wicked, and they did a wicked thing there.
So right there, why did Ananias and Sapphira do that? Why didn't they just come and say, hey guys, we sold it for this much and we kept some of it and we're going to give this much to the church? They didn't have to, they could have given, if they gave any of that to the church, it was a blessing to the church. So all they had to do is say, oh, this isn't the whole thing. We just gave some of what we sold. Now, same thing with Aaron Thompson, Pastor Thompson. He could say the same thing. He could say, look, guys, I am doing this, but I am also getting some personal benefits from doing this. So it takes away some of the glory. Like, hey, guys, don't look at me like I'm a complete volunteer, because I'm not. But he doesn't do that. He says, hey, guys, I don't take a paycheck. But at the same time, we've seen that it's the same thing Ananias and Sapphira did, in the sense that they wanted the glory for being giving all, but they didn't want to give all. And Pastor Thompson here has wanted the glory for doing a great volunteer service, but he's not really a volunteer because he has much money coming to him as a result.
Do you want to play the other clip? He kind of expounds on that a little bit later on in the sermon.
Here it is again.
The garment and the wedge of gold, and his sons and his daughters and his oxen, his asses and his sheep and his tent and all that he had, and brought them into the valley of Achor. And Joshua said, why hast thou troubled us? The Lord shall trouble thee this day. And all Israel stoned him with stones and burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. And they raised over him a great heap of stones unto this day. So the Lord turned from the fierceness of his anger, wherefore the name of the place was called the valley of Achor unto this day. So what did he do? He stole. He stole something that belonged to God. So kind of like Ananias and Sapphira, he promised to give such and such amount and they didn't give what they said they were going to give. So here's the last.
I think that was it on that one, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's talking about, taking the cursed thing. And he's saying that's, and that belonged to God. And everyone stoned him with stones. And he's relating that to Ananias and Sapphira. And he's saying, hey, Ananias and Sapphira, they stole. They lied about it. They stole from God. And you can notice the title of the sermon here, Sins Unto Death. That's what he's talking about. He's saying these are sins that are worthy of death. It's not a light matter. It's not us, being all upset, caring all about money. I mean, I learned from the new IFB, we're supposed to make a big stink about things when it's not right, especially sins unto death. We want to, get all up in arms about sodomites and adultery. What about robbing God, stealing from God?
Yeah. Well, and it's these people act like, oh, you guys are just trying to attack the church and, you have an axe to grind. But honestly, I look at this, and I know Ryan looks at this the same way, is that I want to do unto others as I would have them do unto me. And if I knew, I donated a lot of money to the church. And if I knew where the money was going, I would not have donated that money. I would have gone to a different church and donated money to where I felt the pastor was being wise with the money. And it's not the most important thing. It's not that we love money. The thing is that we love honesty. We love truth, and we love doing what's right. And this is not right. And the reason we came out with our first video was because I want you guys that are paying towards this church as a tithe to know the truth. And if you look at this and at the end you say, hey, I don't care. If he wants to do it like that, if he wants to run it, say he doesn't make any money or whatever for years and then spend his money on personal stuff, that doesn't bother me one bit. Well, then that's fine. Then you can stay at church knowing every time you put money in that plate, it's buying fast food, Black Angus, and other things. And that's fine. But most people, I think, would want to know where their money's going, if it was going to this, that is. So what do you think, Ryan?
I want to talk about one last thing. I want to talk about the building safety issue. And the reason I want to talk about the building safety issue, so I do know that this has been said, you know, Pastor Thompson's been asked about the building safety issue. And people have said it's a flat out lie.
So I had an accusation brought against me that said, well, Brother Chad, he was leading the group in Spokane. Why didn't he get us out of that building if there was safety issues? First of all, number one, I have no control over that because I have expressed concerns about that building, not related to safety, but related to other things that it's just not a good building. And I was unaware of the safety things. I mean, I had been told them later that, oh, the fire marshal is being ridiculous. And, you know, he says there's some safety stuff. But, you know, I just kind of overlooked it because I didn't really see a report. And it's not really my jurisdiction, if you will. This is because people are saying, well, if you knew it was unsafe, Chad, then you're responsible to get us out of there. But I didn't see the reports. I have no knowledge of this stuff. I have no authority over this stuff. And, you know, so this is not on me. This is on the person signing the lease, not on the person that's just there.
And I'll just say this about that. For those people who want to say, Chad, why didn't you get us out of there? Again, you know, you can say I'm overly cautious or whatever, but this is what I do. I'm very good at my job. You know, I'm humble when I need to be, but I'll also tell you, I'm very good at my job. And, you know, Pastor Thompson believed I was very good at my job, which is why he would come to me about building things. The other pastors believed I was very good at my job because Pastor Thompson told them. And, you know, Jonathan Shelley came to me, didn't listen to me, but came to me. Why? Because Pastor Thompson told him I was good at my job. Pastor Jimenez came to me. Why? Because I'm good at my job. Donnie Romero, before everything happened, came to me for a building in Fort Worth and a building in Jacksonville. Why? Because Pastor Thompson told them I was good at my job. But then you want to say, oh, no, we know better than you. Oh, the building's not unsafe. You have a scroll up to the top, Chad, with the fire marshal inspection. So this is the inspection that I was talking about in 2019, where I had to negotiate with the building or with the fire marshal. Unsatisfactory. It failed. And the biggest reason why it failed, if you scroll back down to the bottom, UBC to IBC occupancy class, unsatisfactory. This occupancy does not meet the current criteria for an assembly occupancy. An assembly occupancy is a church, a gathering place, you know, any type in the Washington State Code. It's any type of space for meeting or recreation with a pulpit or a center point of attention, fixed or unfixed seats, where occupants are watching something together, congregating together. Doesn't meet the criteria for an assembly occupancy. Discussion needs to take place on the topic regarding life safety and occupant usage, exiting among other subjects. When I spoke with the fire marshal, the issue, again, was that 29 occupants was the maximum that you could have with one means of egress. That never changed. The occupancy classification never changed. And, you know, if anyone wants to do research, I know you guys like doing research sometimes, go and do research and look this building up and tell me that it is classified as a church. It's not. It's classified as a general office or a Baptist office. Baptist office. It's not classified as a church. It's not legally occupiable as a church. And that didn't change. The only thing that changed was we came to a negotiation that, hey, as long as you keep less than 29 people there, you can be there. And then you go and put 71 people in there, knowing that you're not supposed to. Knowing that it's a safety issue. Oh, but, you know, what's the likelihood that a fire is going to happen? No one ever thinks a fire is going to happen. If people think that a fire was going to happen, it doesn't happen. Accidents happen because people are negligent. And this is negligence. So in terms of Chad getting everyone out of there, Chad was not aware of this report until I shared it with him.
And that was after I left the church.
And that was after he left the church. Because I went to the pastor, the one who signs the lease. And you know what I did? I said, hey, we need to get them out of the building. And if the pastor's not going to listen to me, who's been doing this for over a decade, Is he going to listen to Chad? I mean, you guys got to use some logic.
Well, and the argument I think you would agree is that, well, we couldn't afford another building. What do you think about that?
When you're spending $4,000 a month more than you're taking in, yeah, you're not going to be able to afford to get a new building. But you know what? You cut out that fast food, the McDonald's that the pastor's not supposed to be subjected to. You cut all that out, and lo and behold, you can afford a different building. $2,000 to $3,000. Yeah, that's more than he was paying. But it wasn't unreasonable with the amount of money that was coming in. It was only unreasonable when you're using the church bank account as a personal slush fund.
Well, the thing that bothered me about it too is if you look at the expenses from Spokane versus the tithes from Spokane, there is a very decent amount of surplus in there. And that surplus, instead of going to another building, was going straight to a man's food budget and
Right.
other things.
Well, I think it's about time we wrap this up. I'm going to go ahead and if you want to stop screen sharing, we can go ahead and go back to
Well, let
video
me,
real quick.
okay, never mind. I was going to play that one clip, but it doesn't matter anymore. There's that one about the, I shouldn't have to have McDonald's.
Oh, yeah, go ahead and play that. Go ahead and play that.
Just kind of tops off the meeting here. So let's see what he says here.
Yeah, how's it going with that organic feed? You know, that's what I'm talking about. So the Levites were eating good food. Like, is there anything wrong with eating good food? You know, the pastor's wife is unhealthy enough as it is. So should you have to eat the crappiest food? You know, I don't agree with that. So, and is everything I eat wholesome and healthy? No. But like, what's wrong with eating something that's wholesome and healthy? You know, should I have to go to McDonald's every time I go out to eat? Should I get you guys the best? Should we get prime rib on Christmas and then I get like flank steak or something? That's not right. And that's, you know, that's the opposite of what the Bible teaches. And I'm not saying that I have to have like a meat locker filled with the best grain-fed, you know, black Angus or whatever. I mean, come on. I'm not saying that. But like, you shouldn't have to like beg for scraps or something.
I think that was a good one to end on.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead and stop sharing your screen. We can just give our final thoughts here. So, again, I just want to extend an invitation to other people that like I said, you know, there's a number of you that have reached out already to make diligent inquisition, and you know, prove us in this. If you think we're lying, prove us. You know, you have 2 or 3 witnesses. You have me. You have Chad. You have the bank statements. And I don't think anyone can look at those bank statements, look at the personal spending, and say, this was not a slush fund. This was untaxed inurement. This was untaxed income that he was using while saying, hey, I'm not getting paid. And that untaxed income, saying, hey, I'm doing this, you know, I'm giving my all as a volunteer, while making the bank account go $4,000 in the negative, you know, or having, excuse me, the cash flow $4,000 in the negative. You're lying, and it's theft. And ultimately, that's what led to the building safety issue. That's what led to the fact that, oh, we can't afford to get a safe building in Spokane because you want to keep eating McDonald's and Jack in the Box and Black Angus and getting your DoorDash subscription and having food delivered to your house, spending $180 a day on food. It's not right. So I would, again, just encourage anyone to go and look at it. Don't, you know, don't answer a matter before you hear it. That's foolishness. Take a look at it, make diligent inquisition, and prove us in it. Because, you know, the fact of the matter is there was fraud, there was theft, there was deceit, and it's being done through a church. That is not being a good ambassador of Christ. And this is the type of stuff that can't be covered up. Oh, you want to talk about not covering stuff up, not covering stuff up, not covering stuff up. This is the type of stuff that cannot be covered up. This is the type of stuff that has to be aired out into the open. This is the type of stuff that you have to say, hey, you know what? This is not the way that we're going to do things because it's wrong, it's illegal, and it's lying to God and to the congregation. And, you know, honestly, I mean, I don't know how anyone can look at the bank statements and defend that unless they're guilty of doing the same thing themselves.
Absolutely.
You got anything else, Sean?
The thing that I've noticed a lot is I think it's so unchristian, I guess is the word, is that when you see a couple of guys come out with this kind of evidence, see, this has been heavy on us. This is not something that we got him. This is more, what do we do with this? We've thought about it, we've prayed about it, we've discussed it many times. We've had this information for a while, and we've been trying to figure out what to do about this. And we've gotten counsel on it, and we've really wanted to do the right thing here. And so we come out with this, and instead of people looking at it from our angle and saying, okay, wow, this must have been very difficult. And some people have, we've had a lot of support. At the same time, we have a lot of people that come out without looking at the evidence, calling us liars, calling us sowing discord. We're just trying to destroy the work of God. And that is not the case. You guys, the new IFB, one of the things that I thought the new IFB stood for was the truth and exposing the darkness. You know, when the Donnie Romero thing came out, one of the things that a lot of people applauded was that it wasn't swept under the rug like a lot of the older churches do. You know, you look at the Catholic Church, all the stuff they sweep under the rug and stuff like that. And it was so, whoops, sorry about that, I laughed. Anyway, it was a good thing that it was exposed, because why? So others can see and they can fear. And so, you know, other pastors, other people that are thinking about going to the ministry, they should look at this and realize, okay, I'm going to go in the ministry, I'm going to do things right. You know, I started a business 18 years ago. And the first thing I did was I went and I got an accountant and I asked him, how do I start the business and do things right? Over the table, how do I get my payroll going? How do I get all my documents that I need? Because I don't want to start this business and end up having it fail because I didn't set it on a good foundation. I mean, the church name is Sure Foundation. I mean, I know the foundation is Christ, but we have to look at this and say, look, we have to do things right. And if you're running a church like this, how is this going to last? I mean, you gotta think, where is this going to end? And without it being unchecked, how would I feel? How would Ryan feel if we didn't say anything about this and it went years and years longer like that, with just getting worse and worse? The spending, if you look at the bank statements progressively, they get more and more as you go. And I'm telling you, 2025 would be a lot more than 2021. And so we don't care if people want to rail on us. We have already determined in our heart that we will accept that. We will accept the railing, false accusations against us. I've had people say that I'm not saved. I've had people just call, I mean, don't be ridiculous, guys. I believe that salvation is through Christ alone. Ryan believes that salvation is through Christ alone. We are brothers in Christ. We want the truth because Jesus said, if you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. If you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Look for the truth. Don't be a fool. Don't just discard what we're saying. Look at the evidence and make your own decision. That's all I have for that.
Okay. Thanks, Chad. And to the rest of you, God bless. Take care.
God bless you.